be great to just change it up a little bit and have one of our presenters side by side and to just have a bit of a chat. So that's what we're going to do now. If you've just joined us, welcome, welcome, welcome. So lovely to see you. I have the wonderful Monique here. So let me just tell you a little bit about Monique. Like I have all my other presenters, and it's this, that Monique comes from a background where, like so many mums, she was on the treadmill of dealing with her own son's learning challenges, because Monique is from Brainwise Learning, and she tried many different things in therapy with all varying degrees of improvement. However, when she discovered what was happening in brain research from the book The Brain That Changes by Dr Norman Doidge, she learned about the hope that neuroscience research was being given to people, not just students who were learning differently, but also to support anyone who wanted to learn. And these neuroscience programs were really helping people. She worked first with a speech pathologist in Sydney's North Shore, and since 2018, she's started her own business, Brainwise Learning, in the greater Western Sydney area of Macarthur. And her mission is to increase awareness about how you can improve the ability to learn at any age. And of course, Monique's talk is how to improve the ability to learn at any age. And so, Monique, welcome. So lovely to see you here.
Thank you for that very lovely introduction. I'm touched.
You're welcome. You're so welcome. And it's nice to see you today on a Sunday. It's so cold. Is it cold where you are?
It's freezing. I'm in Picton at the moment and it is freezing.
What was the temperature when you got up this morning?
I don't know, but it was very, very cold. So the heaters were on.
Well, I'm glad that you're nice and warm where you are now. Let's have a little chat about how people can have the ability to learn at any age, because I think that a couple of people are saying hi on Facebook for you, Monique, and sending you some love. The ability to learn can really affect our life balance, can't it?
Yes, it really can. And I've seen that very personally in all the clients that I've worked with, and also in my own son. So when those learning challenges set in, their mindset changes and they start to believe that they can't do anything, and that locks them out of so many things. So the things that I improve are memory, attention, communication skills, because language is such an important part of learning, but also their mindset.
Yes, of course. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a bit. But you know what? I'm grateful that everyone is here today. If you just joined us, I'm speaking with the lovely Monique from Brainwise Learning, and she is talking to us about how to improve your ability to learn at any age. And this isn't just talking about children. You may have a child who is struggling with some learning difficulties, but perhaps you yourself think, I'm not great at learning. What we're going to talk about is going to be so important. So Monique, can you just tell us a little bit about Brainwise Learning and what that's all about?
Okay, so it's about language. So language is a very crucial part of learning. So we need to be able to process all the sounds that we hear, make them sensible into words and attach meaning to them. So traditionally we haven't thought a lot about what goes on in the brain when we are learning, all that processing of information, all that recall that we need to do, and all the sequencing of sound and the processing time that we need to process these things. But in the 1990s, with the advent of what's called fMRI, which is functional magnetic resonance imaging, they've been able to take incredible pictures of the brain, being able to see inside it, but not only just to be able to see inside, it's actually to be able to measure the growth of neural pathways. So every time we do something, every time we think something, and every time we feel something, we're accessing all sorts of networks in there. And the more you do one particular thing, your neural network grows because your brain wants to make you more efficient at doing that particular thing. So language is a very, very important part of the human brain. It's what kind of separated us from the apes, and it was how we survived so well and how we began to thrive. So these communication skills are very, very important. And what we've learned from neuroscience, or the latest brain research using this fMRI, is that we can actually improve memory, we can improve cognition, we can improve thinking speed, and the way our brain processes the sounds of language.
As an educator, this is really important, and even working with people on a one-to-one level with developing their mindset, because of course my business is called Mindset to Inspire. Mindset is everything. Yep. I think that, yes, I was told as a child that, we had those old-fashioned intelligence tests. Do you remember those, Monique?
Oh, I do.
And you were given an IQ.
And a blue one.
Yeah, and I'd love to see anyone in the comments. Do you remember those IQ tests? Like, were you given an IQ test and told, this is your IQ? And if you're at Mensa, you were up around something else. And I think the average IQ, and I talk about this, but now it was 90 to 120. But now they are saying that IQ, from all the new technologies that they're learning, and that, like you said, the imaging, can remind me what that was? What's the imaging?
Resonance imaging, so fMRI.
I'm glad you said that. Yes, I'm glad you said that. That we now can grow our brain, so we can grow those connections. That we actually have neuroplasticity. At any age.
We actually always had it. So this is the funny thing. It's always there. It's just that now we can see it. And more importantly, with fMRI, we can measure it. So we can measure the effectiveness of different learning strategies. And we can see, when we can see the growth in the neural pathways, we know that there's been growth in learning in that particular area.
Wow, that's just incredible, isn't it, what science is able to do now? But it also, I think about that and okay, so now I can, we have to work hard at it, but now I can change my brain and I can learn anything. So it's scary too.
Well, it is, but it isn't, because your brain doesn't wire for good and bad. So it wires what you do the most of. So if you have been smoking, drinking, doing bad things, your brain will wire to make you more efficient at that. And sometimes you can see that in someone who hasn't smoked before. Maybe I remember on television you used to see people who don't normally smoke. You can actually tell because they're a bit awkward with their movements. And that's because they just hadn't done it so many times over. When you practice something, say like the piano, you can see children and their hands are awkward, and sometimes you see their face grimacing and doing all sorts of funny things to try and get their hands to the keys. And it's only practice that makes that whole, the movement smooth and graceful. Dancing is another example, and even a baby walking.
Yeah, Monique, I know that you've had personal experience with this as well, with yourself, and this is what drew you. I know with your son, but even yourself personally. Could you tell our viewers a little bit about that, if it's okay?
Oh, sure. So when I learned about the growth mindset, I was able to look back at my own education and see where I just wanted to look through that lens and see, assess why I had done the things that I had done. So I was lucky in primary school. I was everything came easily to me, and I got a lot of A's, and people used to say, oh, how wonderful, you've got lots and lots of A's, aren't you wonderful? And so I kind of made this connection that I didn't have to put any effort into anything. So even when I got to year 7 and I did the first half-yearly assessment for maths, and I got 97%, and I thought, wow, this high school thing is easy, I don't have to do anything. And so I went through high school never putting any study in, never putting any effort into anything, never revising anything. And so what happened is I started to slip. And so by year 10, when I was in the dumb class, I used to think to myself, how come I was so smart once and I'm really dumb now? And then I kind of based a lot of my life decisions on then. So I didn't go to year 12. I didn't go to university. I wanted to be a teacher. I let all that go because I just assumed that I was dumb and I wasn't able to do that. And so when I learned about the growth mindset, how empowering was it to find out that, no, it was just that I didn't make the effort. I did not put the effort in. And so now that I know that, I'm putting in lots of effort, especially with learning how to run a business.
Yes. And I know that I see that in education all the time, and that the key thing here is that we're building those pathways, and that also I love that you talked about something called growth mindset.
Yes.
Could you explain a little bit about where that came from?
Okay, so I've been coaching, I don't coach the students directly, but I coach the parents with this growth mindset, because the neuroscience programs that I have require a lot of repetition. And the children, of course, get bored with it. And so we have to work on their compliance and helping them stay interested in the program. And one of the things I do is coach the parents with this growth mindset so they can understand and develop the perseverance in the children that they need to get the benefits out of the program. So one of the things, the big thing is about the growth mindset is a big shift in language. So shifting something, when a child says, I can't do this, the teacher will remind them, say, well, you can't do it yet. And just that simple word can make such a big difference, and it introduces the child to the idea that there's a continuum, and that if you start to use some effort, try some different strategies, make a few mistakes and move through that, then you will grow and you will get better at this. The growth mindset also incorporates neuroplasticity for children, so that they start to understand how their brain grows and how they can use the idea of repetition to improve their learning.
Yeah, and I think I have a background as for those people who don't know me, in education, and so this is something that is really being explained in education. If your children at school, maybe they've done some work on growth mindset, and it was coined by a lady called Carol Dweck, who was a psychologist in America, who did an experiment with some children going from year 6 to year 7, because that's such a big transitional period. And when she examined how they thought about who they were as learners, she noticed there were 2 types of mindsets. One was a fixed and one was a growth. And that mindset, if they had a fixed mindset and they believed that learning was talent-based, that it was all about you're born with it, which is what we were told traditionally. Like we've been conditioned to think that. Yeah,
what I fell into. Yeah.
And then there was this mindset, growth mindset, that if they had this growth mindset that they used effort, that those children who had the growth mindset just completely excelled in life.
That's right.
And went so far ahead. They all entered at the same point and they all had the same grades and everything. So she picked children, but the children with growth mindset, and this just doesn't relate to children, it related to adults as well.
Yes.
And she has a fabulous book out.
I've got it.
Have you? Yes, of course you have. Yes, mindset. So if you're thinking about buying a great book on growth mindset, please have a look at Carol Dweck's book called Mindset. Now, so how do we go about this? So now that we know that our brain can change, we can develop great habits. Well, how do we get this growth mindset? What do we do, Monique?
Well, I shed a little light on it before, but changing your attitude to making mistakes is a really big thing. So when you are afraid of making mistakes, you are afraid of the consequences, you're afraid of the shame and the embarrassment, you're afraid of being judged. There's so many things that come up with a fear of making mistakes. If you can start to see mistakes differently as opportunities to learn, opportunities to try new strategies, things like that, then you can really begin to shift. The other thing that happens when you start to claim your mistakes is your integrity. So people who live in that fixed mindset and who have that fear of making mistakes, so they always want to look good and always want to look proficient, they may tend to, not always, of course, but they're the ones who may cheat in exams or manipulate in the workplace, or they may blame other people for things just so they don't look bad. And that's one of the consequences of that fixed mindset. When we have a nice growth mindset, we understand and we say, well, learning is a process. We don't always get things straight away. And we can understand our own growth, but the wonderful thing is that you can see that in others and you give them the opportunity to learn and grow as well. And in a workplace, and the growth mindset is becoming very big in a lot of workplaces and even in sports psychology as well, having this lovely growth mindset, it's a lot more encouraging, it's a lot more respectful of people, and it just gives everybody a chance to feel like they can grow and make a mistake without being penalised.
It's so interesting that that making mistakes is considered a bad thing. Yeah. And I know as an adult, once I learned about growth mindset, it's something that I went, wow. When we think about, a baby trying to walk.
Yes.
We've been conditioned to think that mistakes are bad because they get up, they fall down, they get up and fall down. And if we embraced the mindset of a baby who doesn't think about it and just gets up and does it.
Well, they don't sit down and say, I really don't like my attempt at that. I'm really going to stop now. They don't have that. If only we could all learn like babies.
Yes. They don't think like that, do they? And what else happens is the adults around them go, yay, that's good on you. You just stood up and encourage them.
They get unburdened by all those limiting beliefs that get piled on us as we get older.
Yes. And so I think that's a really big thing for ourselves as well. We need to champion ourselves when we make a mistake.
Oh, the way you talk to yourself is so important. I mean, if you keep saying to yourself that I'm an idiot, I can't do this, what are you going to get? If that's what that becomes your belief, your mindset, you've got to change that. You've got to change that.
Yes, yeah. And I encourage any of our viewers, if that is your internal language, and we all have some level of internal language, when you hear that, that's the opportunity for you to go with gentle curiosity, which is what I talked about at the beginning, of going, perhaps that's something I need to work and talk with someone about.
Yes, well, what's actually happening when you're doing that is you're accessing the neural pathways that you've built around your negative mindset. So every time you said to yourself, I can't do this, you've attached it to a memory, you've attached it to the word network, the language network in your brain. So you've actually built more and more. Every time you said, I can't do this, you've built negative plasticity, if that's a term. And what it's like when you're cutting a new path, it's like trying to cut through a jungle.
Yes.
Yes, but you've got to keep going, because when you keep going, you're cutting new paths.
Yeah. So, Monique, thank you so much. What would be the key takeouts that you want people to know about being able to learn at any stage of life?
Your language. You may believe that you can't learn something, but we were talking about IQ tests before. What if you couldn't read the paper well enough? Would that affect your IQ? Of course it would. You wouldn't get a very high mark if you couldn't read the paper that well. Neuroplasticity, understanding how to use your brain, is incredibly powerful. And once you understand that, you can change your language, you can change the way you process things. It's such an eye-opener. And the fact that you can do this at any age. So we used to think that the brain was quite fixed by the time you were, an adult. But we know now that that's not the case. We can improve plasticity at any time. And it's coming through in things like stroke therapy. People are recovering from stroke a lot better than they used to, because we understand so much more about the brain now. So you are actually in control of your brain. You are in control of your thoughts, and what you wire in is what you do the most of. So if you want to wire a good brain, think good thoughts.
Thank you, Monique. And I know that you have a freebie for our guests, which is exactly that. So can you tell us a little bit about your freebie?
So affirmations are a perfect example of being able to change your mindset. So what I have is a set of affirmations to help you understand that mistakes are wonderful and part of the learning process. And when you say these time and time again, you're cutting that path through that old jungle of horrible bad beliefs about yourself, and you can cut some new paths.
Yes, wonderful. I'm just going to pop that link in the comments, everyone. So if you would like to download Monique's gift today of the affirmations, then please do that now. I've popped it in the comments. Monique, it has been an absolute pleasure. I've loved this little chat that we've had, this nice informal chat. And thank you so much for your insights on
Thank you,
growth
everybody.
mindset.
And I hope I've prepared the soil for you to receive the knowledge that's coming later.
Fantastic. Absolutely. I agree. Monique, I'm looking forward to hearing a lot more from what you've had to say about growth mindset and following you as well, because I know that it's such an important topic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, everybody. Have fun.